Hey everybody, we're back. We want to keep talking about some expectations. We've gone over a lot of expectations for parents and for family as a whole, and one of the things that I get a lot from other mothers who see me with our kids or have seen me with our kids because now they're grown, but they just are amazed at how well our children get along together. So, an expectation that we started very early when we had children was that our children were going to love one another.
Whether they liked it
or liked it or not. Yeah. It wasn't an option. We love each other in our family. But because God says that you're to love one another, we really felt like sibling rivalry was not a thing. It's a thing in the world, but it is not a thing in our Christian home.
Right.
Because God doesn't say, yeah, you're okay to fight like the Dickens for, all of the first years of your life, and then later you can learn how to love. No, it doesn't say that. It says love one another. Mm-hmm. It says that love is patient and kind. And it says that it's not rude and it's not unmannerly. And it's all those things that love is. That's what we wanted our children to be. That's how we wanted them to behave toward one another. Mm-hmm. And so from a very early age, we taught them how to play together, how to love one another, how to share, how to prefer the other one. All of our children learned the lesson, except Abby, because she's on the end, but they all learned to defer to the younger.
Right.
We deferred to the younger child. And that was just a way to let them be kind to the child underneath them. The one that was younger than they were. If there was a dispute over who was going to play with something, I would just look at them and say, why don't you defer to your sister or defer to your brother? And so they would learn to share that thing with their younger sibling first. And then they might get it later, and that was fine. Sure. And I wasn't trying to punish them or in any way, but we just shared and deferred to the younger, and it was a way to kind of keep peace between everybody. Abby didn't have to learn that because she was the last one. She was the little one.
She was the baby.
She was the baby. So, but we expected our children to get along together. Now, because of that, we taught them things like how to play games together. That was a challenge because we have very competitive children.
No.
Very competitive children. And that would be because Brian and I are very competitive. So anyway, they had to learn how to play games and how to lose gracefully.
Ooh, that hurts.
And it was trying sometimes. It was trying sometimes, but we would talk every time we played a game. Okay, we can play this game as long as you will get along and you will not yell and scream at the others, but you will get along and have fun together. Right. And if you lose, if you're the one who does not come out on top this time, you cannot be ugly and you can't be nasty towards one another. You have to get along and play nicely. So that usually worked. But when it didn't, we put that game away for a while because they had to learn to love one another through the game.
Right.
They couldn't just get after each other. And so we didn't have knock 'em down, drag 'em outs. Brian's family's famous for that. But that is the thing we wanted to change. He spoke about that in the last video, that his family is more of a fighting family. Mm-hmm. They love each other. And if someone else would come against them or one of their siblings, they would fight all of those people.
Oh, we'd love to be in a fist fight.
Yeah.
My brothers and I, we'd be in a fight, and then someone's like, oh, I like whichever one of the brothers better. So they're jumping in, trying to help them beat me or one of the other brothers. Yeah. And then we'd stop, we'd beat the tar out of that person, and then go back to fighting.
Yeah. So it was okay in their family for the brothers to fight, or the sisters, actually one of them especially would get in the middle of that. But sure. they could fight, but nobody else could fight them. No. And so that was how they grew up.
Yeah, that's how we were raised.
It's a different paradigm than what we wanted to have in our family.
Huh.
Yeah. We wanted our family to get along. And so our children did learn. They actually do love one another. They have learned to be friends. They are still friends. Yeah. They were friends through their teen years even. Yep. And there were times that were a little more challenging because, sometimes teens have some hormonal things and just attitudes that they have to work through.
Some growth challenges there.
Growth challenges, but they did learn to respect one another, to love one another. They play games with one another. They listen to music together. Mm-hmm. Now as adults, they plan times to spend time together. Yep. And so it's awesome. But our expectation was always for them to love one another.
Right.
They did not have sibling rivalry. We didn't do that at our house. And you don't have to do it at your house.
No, you don't.
It's an option to just love one another, to just be kind, to just be friendly and nice and gentle and understanding with one another. It's okay to do that. In his family also, there was kind of a stigma about not being rough and tough. And our kids are not weaklings, but they're more powerful because of their spiritual insights, I feel, than they are necessarily as physical people. Not to say they are weak. Scott is not weak.
No,
Matthew is not weak.
Right.
They are not. They are very strong people, but they were not rough and tumble, fight it out kind of kids.
Well, they were rough and tumble. They would play
with Dad,
but they weren't rough and tumble
in the sense of
just
punching or
and
hitting.
fighting.
Or, yeah.
I didn't teach them to do that. I would teach them to protect themselves and take care of themselves.
Yes, we did do that.
But we didn't teach them that fighting is the answer to every solution.
To a problem either.
Or all the above. Said it wrong. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, we didn't do that. But we made sure that they did that. The other thing, we set expectations for how to interact with each other. We did not allow name calling.
Right.
They couldn't call each other, hey, you're an idiot, you're a whatever.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
That would get them in trouble.
Just like we spoke good things over them, we expected the siblings to speak good things over each other. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they couldn't disagree.
Right.
Didn't mean they couldn't argue.
Name call.
They can argue. But we're going to find out why, and we're going to find a resolution to the problem.
Yes.
What it is going to be, territorial over a toy. It could be something, well, you told them to help me and they didn't help me and I did all the work. And all those things that come with raising children. Sure. But we didn't allow them to yell at each other. We didn't allow them to call each other's names. We didn't allow them to swear at one another. Swearing wasn't allowed in our house. No. That was a big
And we tried to resolve the conflicts with good communication and understanding and prayer.
Right.
But there were lots of different techniques we might have needed to employ depending on what it was, but we were not punching one another and beating each other up and then holding grudges against one another because we did that. We worked very hard to teach them how to forgive one another and let it go. Right. And then love one another and walk in love towards one another. Walk in peace.
And if they weren't getting along, they were going to fight and argue and yell. We made creative ways. I know that one particular time I had one of my children tell the other child that they hated them. Mm-hmm. So Leslie sat them down and made them write an essay about all the things that they loved about that child.
She didn't like her siblings. So that was what her thing was. She hated all of her siblings. She wished she didn't have siblings. So she had to write an essay on why she loved her siblings and why they were, important to her. She loved that part. We're famous also for spatting. If the children were having enough spat, then they would have to sit and hold hands.
Oh yeah,
that was one of our favorites. It was good.
Yeah,
but creative ways.
It's like you're gonna love you, you're gonna love you, you're gonna love each other, even if it kills you. Yeah. and so, and they felt, I'm sure at times that it was killing them.
Probably.
But what we did is we kept sowing seed into their life of honor. Yeah. Seed of respect. Yes. Seed of love.
Yes.
Seed of consideration
towards their sibling.
Towards each other. Mm-hmm. Not just towards mom and dad, but towards each other. Yeah. And we just kept planting and planting and planting. So where now we have a harvest where our kids will go off and do things together. They'll go have a meal together, or they'll go have a fun night. We'll watch a movie together. They just go do things as a group that you don't always see siblings do once they get old. Some siblings, once they get old, they don't even talk to each other, or they don't hang out together. There's just nothing there. When they do get together for a family reunion or something, there's some love, and there's some kindness, and some generosity, but it's not an ongoing all the time kind of thing. Right. And it's really special. And we've seen other families have this too, where the children in that family are they're best buddies. They're best friends. Mm-hmm. And there's a big age gap between youngest and old. In ours, there's a large age gap between our youngest and our oldest. Mm-hmm. It's a 13, 14-year age gap.
Years.
And so, I was right in the ballpark. And so, thanks. So that's over a decade age gap, but we didn't have an issue with that, with them becoming friends. They're probably not, you know, they're not like Twinkies or anything like that, but they're friends because we cultivated that. And even though my oldest is married and has children of her own,
Mm-hmm.
she still has developed a friendship with our youngest.
Even more so now that Abby's become an adult too.
Absolutely,
So, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that all plays out because of the expectations we set on them,
Yeah.
on how to interact with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And so in our family, we just expected good behavior.
Right.
We expected them to play well together. We expected them to have fun together.
Yeah.
Now, they would probably tell you that there were one or two of them who were a little more in charge kind of people, telling the others what to do. But it didn't cause rifts with them.
Right.
It was personality, but they got along and learned how to play in spite of those strong personalities. They
Yeah.
all learned to play together. They all learned to enjoy time together. One of the things that I remember so well is we had a power outage one time, and our kids were probably at least two of them teenagers, maybe the third one was teenager, but a little older. And at the power outage, we needed to keep our Matthew happy because that disturbed him,
Right.
disrupted his pattern and all that. Couldn't
Right.
do the things he normally did, so we needed to keep him happy. And so, because our children were very creative and very well in tune with one another, they started quoting a Veggie Tale, which Matthew knew by heart also. And so they took turns going around the room saying the different parts, singing the different songs. Matthew put all the sound effects in, and they had such a grand time together doing this with Matthew. And to help Matthew, they were deferring to him.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done something else in the dark while they waited on the power to come back on. But they wanted to help Matthew. And so that was their loving on him,
Right.
is to do that with him, is just quote this movie with him. It's like he was watching the movie because they all said all the parts and sang all the songs, and he was thrilled. He was thrilled that they did that with him. And so it's part of the good behavior they had with one another that made them even interested in doing that. A lot of teenagers don't want anything to do with their younger siblings.
Right.
So if you cultivate it, it will work. Your kids will love one another and spend time together and enjoy it.
Yeah, love is an emotion, but love is a choice.
Yes.
And when you set the expectation for your children to love each other,
Mm-hmm.
you can, she just said, cultivate that because
Mhm.
you can help them choose to love one another. One of the things that I preach to my kids, and still do, even though they're older, is consideration. We
Yes.
taught them to be considerate
Mhm.
of
Thoughtful.
other people.
Yeah.
But we taught that by teaching them how to be considerate of each other
Yes.
at home. Because until they can learn to be considerate of their sibling at
Mhm.
home, they'll never be considerate of the guy at the restaurant, at the
Right.
store, at the
Right.
parking lot, wherever. We taught them to be considerate of other people by teaching them to be considerate of one another.
Yes.
And so, again, it goes back to expectations. It goes back to behavior that you are going to let them know. This is how we see it,
Yeah.
and this is how we expect you to behave.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
whether you set an expectation or not
Mm-hmm.
is up to you. But they will rise to the level
Yes.
of expectation and
Yes, they will.
standard that you set, or they will remain lower
Mm-hmm.
when there's nothing that's set at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, your children are looking to you for boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
to know what's good and bad,
Yeah.
Yeses and nos, what's allowed, what's not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to you for expectations.
Yeah.
What do you really want from me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times have you heard some kid say to their mom and dad, well, what do you want from me anyway? Well, here's what I want from you.
Yeah.
But when you start young and lay that out, it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
And so and do it age appropriately. I don't
Mhm.
expect a 3-year-old to be able to go out and do the task that I assigned my 25-year-old and say, this is what I need done this week. I don't go to my 3-year-old and say, this week is what you got to do. I'll check on you at the end of the week. No.
The 3-year-old is here. Put those toys in this bag.
Yeah. Here, help daddy out. Help mommy out.
Mhm.
Help your brother or sister out. Grab that one. Put it in here.
Yeah.
And so there's an expectation being built and they're learning
Mhm.
in the process. It's not like, pick up all those toys.
No.
That 3-year-old's looking at you like, sure, what you just said, I think I understand, but I'm not doing it. So there's a process of developing
Yeah.
the proper expectation from age
Mhm.
to age to age. The Bible, we've talked about this before in other videos. The Bible talks about the way you learn is precept upon precept, line upon line, concept upon concept. It's the same way you parent.
Yes.
It's the same way you set expectation.
Yep.
We set the expectations, and now we know that when they get to a certain age, this is the expectation. Our expectation is to get them to this,
Mm-hmm.
this very high standard.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't start them there because they have no clue. So it's my job to develop them step by step, line by line, concept by concept, precept by precept, until they can get a bigger picture, and then it kind of clicks.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, they're like, oh, and then you almost gets to the point where you don't really have to do a whole lot, but just kind of nudge them.
Yeah.
And be the rudder in their life, and let them navigate. But you help them, navigate the waters of their life by being the rudder for them.
Yeah.
They become the captain of their own ship, but you're still back there,
Helping guide it.
helping guide that ship.
Yeah.
How's that for a really cool analogy?
That's very good, dear.
Yay, team!
Okay.
Anything else on this one?
No, just encourage your siblings, your children to love each other, to love their siblings.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And it pays off really big dividends. It's really awesome.
Yeah. And you don't have to threaten them or any of that. Just talk to them and converse with them. You don't have to go.
Them.
Look at Brian's family. You want to be like that?
No.
You don't do that. You don't look. You want to be like that family? Don't do that. You just take your family, and you develop them, and you help them to become loving and kind and considerate and courteous. Inside that doesn't make them weak, meek but not weak. And my favorite definition of any Greek word is the word for meek or meekness, and it means power under control. So when you're meek, you're not weak. You actually have greater power than people who just have to be boisterous and blustery and physical and fight. People who can have that self-control from the Holy Spirit have a lot more power.
Yeah.
And so teach your children that.
Mm-hmm.
Teach them. Throwing that fist doesn't make you stronger. Because there's always going to be somebody bigger. There's always going to be somebody faster. There's always going to be somebody smarter. But maybe you're the most spiritual. And that carries a lot of weight, especially in God's kingdom. So set the expectations high and trust God to help you help them.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No.
All right. I'm trying to land the plane. As a pastor, it's hard sometimes to land the plane. All right, guys.
We know you can do it.
We do. Thank you for watching and paying attention and listening to us. We've got more to come. The next video is going to be really special. We're going to be talking about setting expectations. So if you have a special needs child, someone with ADHD, autism, any of those kind of things that are hard to deal with, we want to share with you and teach you how to set expectations for that child as well. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Talk to you then. Bye.